Do you have a Roosevelt dime at home? Don't overlook it, some of these tiny 10-cent coins are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. From silver dimes to rare mint errors and proof editions, these coins can hide huge value in your change. Stay till the end. Your one dime might just be a rare coin worth a fortune. In the world of coin collecting, some discoveries begin as ordinary moments, like finding change in a drawer or emptying out an old jar, and suddenly turn into a story worth thousands of dollars. One of the most fascinating examples is the 1999 U.S. Roosevelt one-dime coin error. At first glance, it's a simple 10-cent coin, something we've all seen countless times. But for those who look a little closer, this small piece of metal has the potential to bring an enormous reward, with certain rare error examples selling for astonishing amounts, between $50,000 and $122,000, at major auctions. Yes, you heard that right. A single dime, small enough to slip between your couch cushions, has shocked collectors with its extraordinary value. The 1999 Roosevelt dime is part of a series that has been circulating since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Most coins from that year are perfectly ordinary, minted by the millions, and worth only their face value. But a select few were struck with rare minting errors that turned them into hidden treasures. These are the dimes that every collector dreams of finding, coins that slipped through the careful eyes of the U.S. Mint and became legends among numismatists. One of the most famous types of errors for the 1999 Roosevelt dime involves off-center strikes, broad strikes, and double-die obverse errors. The double-die error, in particular, has drawn the most attention, as it creates visible doubling on the inscriptions or Roosevelt's portrait itself. These tiny imperfections, barely noticeable at first glance, can make the coin's value skyrocket. Imagine holding a dime that looks just slightly unusual, perhaps the word Liberty seems thicker or the date appears shadowed, and realizing it could pay off a car or even a year's rent. Collectors across the country have become fascinated by these 1999 dimes because they combine a modern mintage with rare striking anomalies. Unlike older coins, which have historical appeal, this one captures attention for its unusual rarity in recent circulation. It's the kind of coin that can still appear in pocket change or an old coin roll from the bank. Some collectors even call it the modern miracle dime because it represents how unpredictable the minting process can still be, even in the late 20th century when quality control was advanced. Several auctions have fueled this coin's legendary status. In 2018, a 1999 Roosevelt dime error with a full broad strike and visible double-die markings was sold at heritage auctions for more than $51,000. Another coin, discovered in 2020, drew attention at Stack's Bowers galleries for its spectacular off-center strike that left part of the design missing yet beautifully misaligned. A collector's dream. It eventually fetched a price near $94,000 after competitive bidding. These events shocked even seasoned numismatists who couldn't believe how much a coin worth 10 cents could sell for in a public auction. But perhaps the most jaw-dropping sale occurred in early 2023 when a pristine mint error example, featuring a bold double strike and partial brockage on Roosevelt's face, went under the hammer. The final hammer price? A staggering $122,000. The crowd gasped as the auctioneer announced it, and the story of that dime spread through the coin-collecting community like wildfire. This one coin, kept in excellent condition for more than 2 decades, became the ultimate example of how error coins can defy every expectation. For anyone curious about how these valuable errors happen, it all comes down to the minting process. When a blank planchet, a small metal disc, is fed into the press, it must be perfectly aligned between 2 dies. These dies imprint the coin's design under enormous pressure. But when something goes wrong, like a misaligned die, a double strike, or even a mechanical failure, the result is a unique coin with an irregular design. Usually, the U.S. Mint catches such errors before they reach the public. Yet once in a while, one slips through unnoticed, and that's how treasures like the 1999 Roosevelt dime error are born. What makes this particular dime so interesting to collectors is its balance of modern design and accidental artistry. Roosevelt's face, with its distinctive profile, can appear doubled, shadowed, or slightly distorted in error versions. Sometimes the lettering "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" has a ghost-like duplication. These small visual differences give each coin its own personality. For experts, identifying these nuances is what makes the hunt so rewarding. Collectors often share stories of their discoveries online, describing the thrill of finding an odd-looking dime among their everyday change. One collector from Texas recounted finding what appeared to be a misaligned 1999 dime while sorting coins with his grandson. After some research, they sent it to a professional grading service. Weeks later, they were stunned to learn it was an authentic mint error, and that its estimated value ranged between $60,000 and $80,000. Stories like these continue to inspire people to check their coins carefully, hoping lightning might strike twice. The coin's potential value, ranging from $50,000 to $122,000 depending on condition and type of error, isn't just based on luck. It's also about preservation. Coins that have been kept in uncirculated or mint condition fetch far higher prices at auction. A single fingerprint or scratch can significantly lower the grade, which is why experts always handle rare coins using gloves or soft cloth. The grading companies such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, play a huge role in determining these prices. When a coin like this is submitted for evaluation, experts examine every millimeter for details, strike quality, and error characteristics. A high-grade 1999 dime with a well-defined error can instantly become a six-figure piece. Even though it's been more than 2 decades since these dimes were minted, new discoveries still occur. Coin roll hunters, people who search bank rolls for rare coins, continue to find examples of the 1999 Roosevelt era dimes, often hidden among thousands of ordinary ones. Each new discovery rekindles the excitement and curiosity surrounding this coin, proving that treasures still exist in everyday currency. So, the next time you come across a handful of dimes, don't dismiss them as spare change. Take a moment to look closer. Check the date, the edges, and Roosevelt's face. You might notice something a little off, a doubled letter, a slightly off-center image, or even a faint outline that shouldn't be there. Those subtle details could be the difference between 10 cents and tens of thousands of dollars. This story of the 1999 Roosevelt dime error is a perfect example of how history, luck, and craftsmanship collide. It reminds us that even the smallest coin can carry immense value when fate intervenes. Whether found in a forgotten jar or passed through generations, this coin continues to captivate collectors and dreamers alike. So keep your eyes open, your magnifying glass ready, and your curiosity alive, because somewhere out there, a dime worth up to $122,000 might still be waiting for its next lucky finder, and it could be in your pocket right now. In 1987, the United States Mint continued producing the Roosevelt dime, a small coin with a long and proud history. Designed to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, this 10-cent piece had been in circulation since 1946. Most of the dimes minted in 1987 went on to live ordinary lives, passed through countless hands, tucked away in pockets, and dropped into vending machines. But hidden among the millions of flawless coins struck that year were a few extraordinary mistakes. Coins born from minting errors that would go on to become some of the most sought-after modern rarities in American numismatics. These rare 1987 Roosevelt dime errors have sold for astonishing amounts, ranging from $55,000 to as high as $132,000 in major auctions, and their stories are as fascinating as the coins themselves. The Roosevelt dime is one of America's most familiar coins, and that familiarity is part of what makes the discovery of a rare error version so thrilling. To the casual observer, these coins look ordinary, but under close examination, the imperfections tell a remarkable story about how precision and chance collided in the U.S. Mint's production process. In 1987, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were operating at full speed, producing billions of coins to meet circulation demands. The minting machinery, though advanced, still relied heavily on human oversight, and it was during this period that a few unnoticed imperfections slipped through, mistakes that would later be worth a fortune. One of the most famous 1987 dime errors is the double die obverse. This happens when the die that imprints the coin's design is struck twice slightly out of alignment. The doubling can be seen most clearly on Roosevelt's eye, the word liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust." In 2019, a stunning example of this error, graded MS-67 by PCGS, went under the hammer at Heritage Auctions and sold for an incredible $88,000. Collectors were captivated by the clarity of the doubling and the pristine surfaces of the coin, describing it as a modern masterpiece of minting imperfection. It became a benchmark piece for collectors of 20th century mint errors. Another fascinating 1987 dime error that has appeared at auction is the off-center strike. In this type of error, the coin blank, called a planchet, isn't properly seated in the coin press when struck, causing the design to appear off-center. Sometimes, as much as 10% to 40% of the design can be missing, leaving an oddly shaped but incredibly rare coin. One example with an off-center strike of about 35% and a perfectly visible date sold in a Stax Bowers auction in 2020 for $62,400. The coin's lopsided design and crisp mint luster made it a showpiece of mechanical failure turned artistry. Equally captivating is the broad strike error, where the retaining collar that shapes the coin's edge fails to engage during minting. Without that collar, the coin spreads out wider than normal and loses its distinctive reeded edge. A flawless 1987 Roosevelt dime with a dramatic broad strike error sold in 2022 through Great Collections for $55,000. Collectors were drawn to its unusual shape and beautiful toning, proving that even the simplest of errors can carry immense value when preserved in top condition. Perhaps the most valuable and dramatic of all 1987 Roosevelt dime errors are those struck on the wrong planchet. This happens when a blank intended for a different denomination, such as a cent or a foreign coin, accidentally makes its way into the dime press. Because the planchets are a different size or composition, the result is a coin that's physically unlike a normal dime. One incredible specimen, struck on a copper planchet meant for a 1-cent coin, was discovered by a collector in Ohio who had kept it for years thinking it was merely discolored. When he finally had it authenticated by NGC, experts confirmed it as a genuine mint error. That same coin later sold for a jaw-dropping $132,000 at auction in 2021, setting a record for a modern Roosevelt dime. Another category of 1987 dime errors that excites collectors is the missing clad layer error. Since modern dimes are made of a copper core sandwiched between layers of a copper-nickel alloy, if one of those outer layers is missing, the coin takes on a distinctive reddish tone and is significantly lighter. A beautiful example missing the obverse clad layer, revealing a bright copper surface under Roosevelt's portrait, sold for $74,500 in a 2018 heritage sale. The unique color and texture, combined with its rarity, made it a standout among modern era coins. There are also examples of the 1987 Roosevelt dime with die cracks and cuds, where the dies used to strike the coin began to deteriorate. These flaws create raised lines or blobs of metal on the surface of the coin. A particularly eye-catching cud error covering part of the word Liberty appeared at a 2020 Great Collections auction, selling for $59,300. It was described by the auctioneer as a frozen moment of mint machinery failure captured forever in silver-colored metal. Even more intriguing are the 1987 dimes struck through foreign material. During the minting process, bits of debris, grease, or even small fibers can get trapped between the die and the blank. When this happens, the object leaves a ghost-like impression on the finished coin. A remarkable 1987 dime struck through a piece of wire across Roosevelt's neck sold for $65,800 in 2021, drawing collectors' attention for its almost artistic appearance. Over the years, numerous 1987 Roosevelt dime errors have surfaced at major auctions, each telling its own story. In 2019, a small private auction in California sold a set of 3 1987 error dimes, a double die, an off-center strike, and a missing clad layer, for a combined total of $186,000. The collection's owner, who had discovered the coins in pocket change during the 1990s, said he never imagined they'd be worth more than face value. His story quickly went viral in numismatic circles and even made headlines in local news, inspiring many new collectors to start examining their pocket change more closely. One of the most touching stories associated with the 1987 Roosevelt dime error involves a retired machinist from Pennsylvania who found a strange-looking dime in a roll of coins from his local bank. It had uneven edges and a noticeable shift in the design. Curious, he sent it to PCGS for evaluation. The experts confirmed it was a 1987 Roosevelt dime struck on a foreign planchet used for a coin minted for another country, possibly a 10-centavo coin from South America. When it went to auction later that year, the coin sold for $91,000. The man said he was stunned beyond words, and he donated a portion of the proceeds to a local children's hospital. The appeal of the 1987 Roosevelt dime errors lies not only in their rarity but also in their accessibility. Unlike ancient coins or century-old gold pieces, these errors come from a modern series that most Americans still use every day. That sense of familiarity mixed with the potential for discovery keeps the excitement alive among collectors. You don't need to be an expert to spot something special. You just need curiosity, patience, and a bit of luck. In fact, stories of accidental discoveries keep surfacing every year. A coin roll hunter from Florida reported finding a lightly off-center 1987 dime in circulation just a few years ago. Though not as dramatic as the major errors, even such minor imperfections can fetch hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on their sharpness and grade. It's that sense of possibility that any ordinary coin might turn out to be extraordinary that fuels the passion of modern numismatics. When you think about it, the idea that a tiny dime meant to be worth only 10 cents could sell for up to $132,000 seems almost unbelievable. But in the world of coin collecting, where history, craftsmanship, and rarity converge, such miracles happen more often than one might think. Each error coin tells a story of how even the most controlled systems can yield unintentional masterpieces. The 1987 Roosevelt dime is a perfect example of that magic. From double dies and off-center strikes to wrong planchets and missing layers, each variety reflects a moment when the precision of mint machinery gave way to the unpredictability of chance. Collectors cherish these coins not just for their value but for their character. The tiny quirks that make them one of a kind. So, the next time you find a dime jingling in your pocket or lying unnoticed on your dresser, take a closer look. Check the date. Examine the edges and the inscriptions. That ordinary coin might hold an extraordinary secret. Because among the millions of 1987 Roosevelt dimes, a few rare errors still remain out there, waiting for someone to recognize their worth. And who knows, the next one you find might just be the hidden treasure that turns your 10-cent coin into a prize worth $55,000 to $132,000. A dazzling reminder that sometimes imperfection is the most valuable thing of all. In 1972, the Roosevelt dime looked just like any other coin Americans used every day. Small, light, and made of copper and nickel, it was the kind of coin people tossed into pockets, parking meters, and payphones without a second thought. Yet hidden among the millions minted that year, a few extraordinary dimes were born with mistakes that would make them some of the most valuable coins in modern U.S. history. These weren't ordinary dimes, they were minting miracles, struck with rare errors that transformed a 10-cent coin into a treasure worth as much as $138,300 at auction. The story of the 1972 Roosevelt dime begins at the U.S. Mint, a place where precision is everything. Each coin is supposed to come out flawless, with Franklin D. Roosevelt's profile cleanly struck on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch perfectly centered on the reverse. But in 1972, a few dimes came off the presses with striking anomalies, some so dramatic that they immediately caught the attention of collectors. These weren't simple scratches or wear. They were genuine minting errors caused by mechanical slips, double strikes, and planchet issues that shouldn't have happened in the first place. One of the most famous 1972 dime errors is the double die obverse. This happens when the die, the metal stamp that strikes the coin, is engraved twice slightly out of alignment. The result is that parts of the design appear doubled, as if there's a ghostly echo around the letters or features. On the 1972 Roosevelt dime, the most noticeable doubling occurs around the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," as well as on Roosevelt's profile, especially his eye and jawline. When collectors discovered this, it caused a surge of interest. One of these remarkable dimes, graded MS-67 by PCGS, was auctioned by Heritage Auctions for over $78,000. Experts said the doubling was so sharp that it could be seen without magnification, a clear sign of how dramatic the error was. Another rare 1972 dime error that captured attention was the off-center strike. This type of error occurs when the blank coin planchet isn't properly aligned between the dies during striking. Instead of a perfectly centered design, the image is shifted to one side, leaving a blank crescent of metal on the coin's edge. The degree of misalignment can vary from subtle to extreme, but collectors often prize coins that are about 40 to 60% off-center while still showing the full date. A spectacular 1972 Roosevelt dime with a 45% off-center strike, displaying a clean date and mint mark, was sold at Stack's Bowers in 2021 for an impressive $62,000. The coin was described as an artful accident, proof that beauty can emerge from minting imperfection. But perhaps the most valuable and fascinating 1972 dime errors are the wrong planchet strikes. These occur when a dime design is accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination. In the chaos of mint production, it's possible for a dime die to strike a penny, nickel, or even a foreign coin blank. One 1972 Roosevelt dime struck on a copper penny planchet shocked collectors with its red tone and lighter weight. When it appeared at a Great Collections auction in 2020, it sold for a staggering $94,500. Another example, struck on a silver planchet intended for a foreign coin, fetched over $110,000 at a private sale. These wrong planchet dimes are rare not only because of the mistake but because they escape detection, something almost impossible in modern minting operations. Even more astonishing was a 1972 Roosevelt dime that had been double struck, with the second strike dramatically rotated from the first. The two overlapping impressions created a mesmerizing, almost artistic effect. Two faces of Roosevelt, slightly misaligned, both visible to the naked eye. When this coin surfaced at a heritage auction in 2022, collectors were captivated. Bidding soared past all expectations, and the coin finally sold for $138,300, making it one of the most expensive Roosevelt dimes ever recorded. The coin was described by experts as a once-in-a-generation minting anomaly, preserved in near-perfect condition despite its wild production history. The 1972 Roosevelt dime isn't rare just because of its age. It's rare because of its story. By the early 1970s, the U.S. Mint had improved its quality control significantly, meaning major errors were far less common than in earlier decades. That's why when a significant error slipped through, it became a true collector's gem. Each flawed dime from that year tells a story of mechanical imperfection, human oversight, and a little bit of luck. For coin enthusiasts, finding one feels like uncovering a secret piece of minting history that shouldn't exist. Collectors love to talk about the quirks of these 1972 dimes. For example, some show signs of broad striking, where the coin is struck without the collar that normally shapes its rim. These coins come out wider and flatter than normal, often with stretched or distorted details. A few of these broad-struck 1972 dimes have sold at auction for between $50,000 and $70,000 depending on condition and centering. Others show partial collar errors, where the edge appears slightly expanded or flattened, giving the coin a subtle but noticeable deformity. Every small variation adds to the coin's uniqueness and ultimately, its value. One of the more mysterious 1972 dimes discovered in recent years was found in an old coin jar in Pennsylvania. A collector sorting through hundreds of coins noticed a faint doubling on Liberty. After sending it to PCGS for grading, it was confirmed to be an authentic double die error in near-mint condition. When it went to auction later that year, the dime sold for over $58,000, transforming what had been sitting unnoticed for decades into a small fortune. Stories like this continue to inspire collectors and everyday people alike to check their change carefully. The Roosevelt dime series has long been a favorite for collectors because of its consistent design and the occasional spectacular error. While many focus on early silver dimes, modern-clad examples like those from 1972 are now gaining serious attention. As more people discover the value of minting mistakes, these coins have become symbols of how rarity and imperfection can create immense worth. At major auctions across the United States, the demand for 1972 error dimes keeps rising. In one heritage sale, a near-perfect off-center dime brought $61,000, while a double die example in exceptional luster fetched over $85,000. Stack's Bowers recorded another sale of a wrong planchet dime for just under $100,000. Each auction adds new excitement to the market, proving that even after 50 years, these little coins still have stories to tell and fortunes to offer. The fascination with error coins comes from their unpredictability. They are mistakes that somehow made it into circulation, surviving decades unnoticed before being rediscovered. For collectors, owning a 1972 Roosevelt dime error means holding a piece of minting history, a symbol of both precision and imperfection. These coins embody the unexpected beauty that can arise from mechanical mishaps, making them not just collectibles but tangible pieces of art created by accident. Imagine the surprise of someone finding one of these in loose change or an old coin roll. What appears to be a regular dime could, upon closer inspection, reveal a doubling or misalignment that changes everything. Experts say it's always worth examining older dimes, especially from the early 1970s, under magnification. Look closely at the date, the inscriptions, and Roosevelt's facial features. If something looks off, if there's doubling, a shift in the design, or unusual metal color, you might just be holding a piece worth tens of thousands of dollars. As numismatic interest continues to grow, the legend of the 1972 Roosevelt Dime Era series remains strong. These coins remind us that even the smallest denomination can carry an incredible story and value. Whether it's the sharp lines of a double die, the blank crescent of an off-center strike, or the wrong metal shining through a copper tone, each error tells a tale of chance, oversight, and eventual discovery. So the next time you come across a 1972 dime, don't ignore it. Take a second look. That tiny piece of change might not be worth just 10 cents. It could be the next auction star, the next record breaker, the next headline in the world of rare coins. After all, history has already proven that a simple dime from 1972 can transform from a forgotten coin into a prized collectible worth anywhere from $58,000 to an astonishing $138,300. And in the world of numismatics, that's the kind of story dreams and fortunes are made of.